Stephen King, author of Carrie, said, Evil Dead is the most ferociously original horror film of the year. If you think he's kidding, see for yourself. Evil Dead. They got up on the wrong side of the grave. Evil Dead from New Line Cinema.
Welcome, creeps, and join us. Join us. We are taking a quick break this week from our countdown to Halloween kills. Jeremy, there's a very special movie that, as of the release of this episode, and a few days from the release of this episode, will be celebrating its 40th anniversary. And we know the next week and a half, the next 2 weeks, will all be Knives, Michael Myers masks,
Pumpkin.
Yeah, all of that. And we just needed to fit this in because this movie, it would be a sin, it would be a crime if we did not talk about this movie for its 40th anniversary.
It would be horror movie sacrilege.
It would. So this week we are taking a break from Halloween. I know you're all loving that shit. We've been hearing great comments. You're loving it. The numbers, they show. So thank you so much for listening. But I am Justin.
I am Jeremy.
And tonight we're going to be talking about the 40th anniversary of Sam Raimi's The
Evil Dead.
Yeah, baby. No groovy to be said here. That's not mentioned in this movie. Though I always, every time I watch it, I'm like, I keep looking for it. Like, is it there? It's just whispered. Does he say it there in the background? No, there's no groovy here.
I'm super stoked to talk about this movie. I think it was a week or so ago where I told you, hey, the 40th anniversary of Evil Dead is coming up. You were well aware. So it was something that we had to discuss. This is a movie that I love very, very much. I've gone through great lengths, travel to meet the cast and some of the crew of the Evil Dead franchise. So this was a big deal talking about this movie, and I watched it today in preparation of this, and after the millionth watch of this movie, I still love it so much, man.
Yeah, and again, you said it perfectly. There's no way we're doing a Brain Stew episode the week of or before without talking about The Evil Dead. Now, I have covered this movie before, like a million fucking years ago, with my buddy's podcast, Cult 45. Great fun time, but I think it was literally 5 years ago, probably for the 35th anniversary. So it is due time to talk about it again, and who would I rather talk about it with than my boy Jeremy, who is by far a much bigger Evil Dead fan than I. But before we get there, Jeremy, how the fuck are you doing, dude? What's going on?
Oh, man.
I'm my boy Jay to the Morehead.
Doing so good. I can barely stand it, man. The house is decorated for Halloween. We've got pumpkin stuff all over the place. We've got fake spider webs, maybe real spider webs, fake spiders, real spiders. Hopefully not a lot of real spiders, because that'd be super creepy. But yeah, we're all decked out to the T. You know, I've got a 5-year-old, and she loves Halloween, so she's just pumped that we have everything spookified, and this is just a great time of year to be a horror fan, right? So a lot of normies, they only celebrate Halloween during Halloween season. You start seeing it in September, October, yep. November, it's dead to them. For us, this is lifestyle, man. This is year-round. So there's just nothing better than seeing just Halloween-themed stuff all over the place. We've got so much horror movie goodness coming out. I mean, we've got Halloween Kills coming out next week. You know, they just dropped a trailer for the Chucky TV series.
Yeah, which I was going to say, yeah. I wanted to mention while you were mentioning it, I was not, like, hugely impressed by the first trailer, but the new one, I was like, Okay.
Looks awesome.
I might be in for this. I mean, I'm going to watch it anyways, regardless. But I was like, okay, a much better cut trailer that really more conveys what they're really trying to get across here. I really want to have hope in Mancini here, but, the last few films that he had his hand in, I mean, I know he is the creator, as you will, but they kind of were, either good or not really good.
Curse
or
of Chucky
mixed
was
bag.
great, man. Curse of Chucky was great. Cult of Chucky.
Yes, I liked Curse.
Cult of Chucky I could have absolutely done without. So hopefully this is another home run for him. So we've got a Chucky TV series coming out. Left field, because I remember a few months ago reading that there was a slumber party massacre, something happening with the Sci-Fi Channel. So I was like, oh, man, Sci-Fi Channel.
Sci-Fi Channel.
See.
It usually means death, bro.
Sure.
Usually. 9 times out of 10, it usually means death.
Things are changing, dude, because the same creative team that was behind the Banana Splits movie, which I still have not seen, but I heard it's freaking great, is behind the new Slumber Party Massacre film. So I keep hearing that this Banana Splits movie is great. I'm going to watch it. People are excited that the same creative team are behind it, and they just dropped the teaser trailer last week. It was...
Yeah, I saw you posting about it. What'd you think, dude?
I think it looks so awesome. I'm even though this is Sci-Fi Channel, they did not skimp on the gore one bit. So apparently this is kind of a reboot, remake, sequel, if you will. So in some ways, I heard that it connects to the original, but also kind of spins off and does almost like a remake sequel thing. I don't know what any of that means. I'm just gonna check it out. I'm a huge Slumber Party Massacre fan. I'm going to Chiller Theater at the end of this month, and I'm gonna meet the actress Michelle that played Trish in the Slumber Party Massacre. She was one of the final girls. Super excited. I've met Michael Villiella before, who, of course, is the driller killer from the original Slumber Party Massacre. So I'm excited to add her signature. It's a good time to be a Slumber Party Massacre fan because it's been a long time since we've got a film.
I gotta say, it's kind of surprising it took this long for them to do another version of that film, because in the last 5 to 6 years, you can see that the fandom surrounding that title has really started to get bigger and bigger. The t-shirts, the merchandise, people are really starting to be more and more aware of it. I know that for Dismember the Alamo at Alamo Drafthouse DC Ashburn a few years ago, we showed part 2, and the crowd loved it. They were just like roaring the entire time. What I love here is, again, I'm going to butcher her name, but Danishka Esterhazy, another female director, is involved as a director with this one and following suit properly. So I loved the footage that I saw. I was like shocked that it was like sci-fi, but it's possible that these filmmakers are just bringing these projects to sci-fi. Like, here, would you just distribute this on your channel, your streaming, whatever they have? It's already done. So sci-fi has no creative say in any of it, which would probably be for the best. But
sure.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I can't say enough that this looked actually really fantastic.
Hopefully this does gangbusters for them. And I know I briefly touched on it the last time that we spoke on the podcast, but allegedly there is a Killer Clowns thing that's supposed to be happening at Sci-Fi. So hopefully Slumber Party Massacre is a huge success and it's a fantastic outing for us horror fans. Hopefully it gets the ball rolling at Sci-Fi for them to say, okay, let's do this Killer Clowns thing. I know the Chiodo brothers, I know they want to do it. They've been dying to do it for years. I'm hoping it's going to happen. But so speaking of Slumber Party Massacre, the new film is directed by a female director. The original film was written by a female who went on to make a family-friendly movie. Do you know who that is?
I have absolutely no idea.
Amy Holden Jones, who went on to write the movie Beethoven with the dog.
Dude, I fucking love Beethoven. That shit is cinematic comfort food for me. Like, when I'm depressed, when Danielle's like yelling at me and she's telling me she's had enough of my shit. It happened like 3 months ago.
Be nice,
it was
Danielle.
It was like May or something, and I'm like, I'm gonna put on Beethoven. I remember seeing it opening night, and it makes me feel happy inside. And I did. And so that's crazy that she had her hand in such a classic. Yes, I'm calling Beethoven a fucking classic. Charles Grodin? Come on, dude.
Wasn't David Duchovny in that too?
He was.
All right. There you go.
He got his ass tied to the table with a leash and dragged across the lawn.
I have not.
This is pre-X-Files. I
have not seen that movie probably since the late 90s. So maybe I need to watch Beethoven. Dude, my kid would probably love that movie.
Yeah, show her Beethoven.
I gotta show her
for
Beethoven.
real. That's craziness. But yeah, so I saw today on the subject of Halloween stuff. You sent me a text. You got some cool Killer Clowns swag from Spirit today, didn't you, motherfucker?
So, my buddy Aaron at Cavity Colors pre-ordered the animatronic Shorty from Killer Clowns. So, it was one of those things, I dragged my feet on it. I said, I'll get him. All of a sudden, sold out online, like very quickly. So, I was like, shit. Okay, well, when they ship them to stores, I'll get them. So, I've gone to Spirit so many times, they're like, no. We have none, and apparently the stores are very slow getting them or just not getting them at all.
I haven't seen one in any of the Spirits I've gone to.
No, so, ladies and gentlemen, it's always great to ask questions. Be that nerdy person that's like, can you look in the back for me? Because I'm at Spirit Halloween, and I'm bumming because they don't have any life-size Shorty Killer Clown animatronics. So I walk up to the lady that's working, and I said, hey, hi, how are you? Do you have any Killer Clown stuff in the back that you haven't put out yet? And she said, I cannot believe how quickly all this Killer Clown stuff is selling. Like, this stuff, every time we put it out, it just goes. I said, well, do you have anything in the back you haven't put out yet? She goes, I think we have some of the Killer Clown guns in the back, which collectors that are listening to this, collectors that are listening to this, you know that these things, people are going nuts for them. You can't find them.
I mean,
find
Instagram, people are freaking out. I mean, they're going nuts about it.
They're selling for like triple the price on eBay. It's insane. So she goes to the back, and she brings me out a Killer Clown popcorn gun. I was so stoked. I thanked her profusely, so I bought it and quickly got it home, and it's displayed down in the man cave already. Of course, still in the box, staying in the box, of course. So I'm pumped, man. It was a good day to be a horror fan for me.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we go any further, we take a quick promo break, and then we get into our Evil Dead 40th anniversary retrospective.
Yes.
Even though we're not talking about Halloween franchise-related stuff, don't forget, we are still doing our Halloween Kills poster contest. Jeremy, should we do it the entire month of October, or should we end it next week?
I think we should do it for all of October. I mean, we celebrate Halloween year-round. I think our listeners should be rewarded all month long.
Okay, well, our second winner, our poster winner, Dylan Henry, was just announced today on our social media, and your poster was sent out today. Long time EFG listener, loves the Brain Stew segments. His review said that in spades. So if you're unaware of what the promotion is, we have full-size Halloween Kills theatrical posters. All you have to do is go onto iTunes, leave us a review, and for every 5 new reviews we get, we count them. And then a winner is picked at random. And you just got to give us your address. And then you get a free, full-size, theatrical, double-sided, heavily sought-after Halloween Kills poster.
People want these things, man. So if you're one of those people that want one of these things, you know what to do. Leave us a review. Tell us what you think about the show. And who knows? You could win a full-size, double-sided, theatrical Halloween Kills poster.
That's right, Jeremy. And so, there it is. Show us some love. We'll show you some love back. We'll put you on your back and flip you over and maybe rub you. Never mind.
Let's get it on.
We'll do something for you. Just a little something. But we're going to take a quick promo break and hear from our sponsor, Evil Tea. And when we come back, 40th anniversary of Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead. We will be right back.
The Brain Stew podcast is fueled by our sponsor, Evil Tea, by the Evil Tea Company. Steeped in darkness, Evil Tea brings a sharp and spooky variety of tea flavors featuring robust and creative blends for all those teen monsters out there. Use promo code BRAINSTEW for 15% off your first order. Check out their website at eviltcompany.com to find the right blend for you.
All right, party down. Which is
I'm ready.
Which is my favorite line from The Evil Dead, spoken by Scotty, played by Hal Delrich. So, welcome back to Brain Stew, where we celebrate the 40th anniversary of Sam Raimi's classic, The Evil Dead. Dude, I'm so stoked to talk about this movie. Watching it again this evening, I love it. Even when you can see some of the cracks and some things that maybe haven't held up so great, like some of the, let's face it, the makeup and stuff is fantastic, but there are times where you can tell it's just some liquid latex that's thrown on there that they painted on, and I think it gives it charm. It gives it some charm to this classic.
100%. There's a lot of charm in this movie, and I think that's what really makes it so important, so iconic, and so held up high on a pedestal for horror fans, and I think cinephiles alike today. Like, it's going to always be that one movie that champions indie filmmakers. But I have to ask, because I know you're not a 4K guy. I mean, I know you have a 4K TV, but how did you watch it? Did you watch it VHS, DVD?
Blu-ray. I watch it Blu-ray.
Okay.
Yeah. The gore in this movie. I mean, there's a reason that this film was considered a video nasty, right? Which, for those of you that don't know what video nasties are, United Kingdom used to refer to a number of films, typically low-budget horror and exploitation films, distributed on videocassette that were criticized for their violent content by the press, social commentators, and various religious organizations in the early 1980s. Some of the other films considered to be video nasties was The Burning, Dead and Buried, House by the Cemetery, and pretty much every Dario Argento film. So The Evil Dead was quickly considered a video nasty due to the gore, and damn, the gore is so fantastic in this movie.
Jeremy, the amount of blood is so plentiful and never-ending. I'm going to ask you a question on that subject. Can you name a movie that precedes Evil Dead that has that much blood splatter, blood spray, all over the fucking place? I can't think of one. Honestly, I can't. I mean, what comes to mind immediately is like The Shining and like the elevator opening and the blood, pouring out. But I'm like, I can't think of like a low budget horror movie having this much blood.
That level of blood, no. I mean, you had some of your Italian horror films that were coming out that had, an ample amount of gore, but the amount of blood and guts that's in The Evil Dead, it's insane. I mean, and I love that. I mean, you've got green blood, you've got red blood. You can tell they're, like, at certain points, literally spitting out milk.
Milk, yeah, it's all. It looks like semen.
It's dude, this.
We're puking up fucking jizz.
Yeah. I mean, dude, this movie has so many gross out parts. It's part of why this movie became a classic. I mean, it got rave reviews by Stephen King. By horror film, lovers all over. Immediately championed this little movie that could.
And it's widely considered one of the most successful independent films ever made. And what started out as like a classic, kids go into the woods for a good time and bloody mayhem ensues, proved to be something that audiences had never really seen before. With, the ultra-talented and inventive Sam Raimi at the helm, it created something completely different that audiences had never seen before. Perfectly blending possession, camp horror with a touch of H.P. Lovecraft, and with this indie touch to it, because obviously up until this point, this is Sam's first movie. He had done shorts up until this point. He had done student films. He quit school to make this movie, and it shows here. It's just crazy to think that this kind of miracle can occur in the world of filmmaking, let alone horror filmmaking. because you think of movies in today's terms, right? You think of what can happen now. When you go back to 1980, 1981, things weren't as easy. Now, I'm sure, Jeremy, you know the story. Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, childhood friends, they both had a vision for something. They wanted to create something. And they spent a long, long time raising money for this, begging family members, begging
doctors,
financiers,
anyone.
Even doing, the short film that Raimi created, Within the Woods, which I've actually never seen. Have you seen it?
I've never seen that either. No.
Apparently made for $1,600. This was made for investors to be like, hey, look what we can do. Bruce was in it. A few other cast members from The Evil Dead were in it. I think it's like 20 minutes or something like that. I tried to find it on YouTube before we recorded this, could not locate it. So I was hoping I could find it to watch. That's the thing about these new 4K releases. I'm like, motherfucker, you give me the movie and it looks great, but where's all the I want to see that shit. But no. So this movie was a labor of love for everybody involved. And it sounds like another Night of the Living Dead. If you know the story of that movie, it's just a whole band of people coming together to make a movie, also passionate about the material. And just, again, as George said about Night of the Living Dead, just trying to make a movie. And that's what they did here with The Evil Dead.
So, as you're aware, initially I was supposed to be gone this week on a business trip. So the business trip was in Tennessee and was literally
where they shot
30.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I was going to be 30 minutes away from here.
Way.
Yeah, dude, I had it all set up that I was going to go to the filming location. And at the last minute, my work said, hey, the trip is actually unnecessary this week, but we might fly out sometime in November. But this week would have been the week that I would have been there, which would have been on the 40th anniversary or right before the 40th anniversary of the film. So it would have been kind of a little ironic, being able to walk into those woods where, the demons, the deadites were flying about,
Are you aware of how easy it is to get there? I know there's a lot of awesome fan sites to locate those locations, but I've heard throughout the years of doing locations that those are a little harder to come by.
My buddy Ben has gone a few times, and he said it's fairly easy. It would have been a situation where I probably would have FaceTimed him and been like, hey, I'm here, where do I go? And he would have probably kind of navigated me to where it was. Yeah. So from what I know, just the fireplace is there, and I believe the hole in the ground they dug for the cellar is still there. So, essentially you're going to check out the fireplace and the hole in the ground.
Well, that would have been amazing.
That's still,
I would have never.
Dude, the woods is one of the biggest parts of that location. I mean, the woods.
I would have to say
terrifying.
Probably the most important.
Yeah,
part, right?
For sure. So
the cabin is just the enclosure, but the atmosphere, everything that's coming out in that movie is the woods, man.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
Real.
So I if I get to go in November, man, I'm gonna be super pumped checking it out.
Well, I would have had I known this, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't fucking tell me this. I was like, no, you're gonna stay. You ain't going on a work thing. You got Evil Dead and Halloween Kills and all this other shit.
Brain stew, bitches.
But now that I know this, I've been like, no, please go for yourself, not just for you, but for me. Just go. But
the only difference, man, amazing. November is gonna be fucking cold. So,
like it is in the movie, though.
True.
You can see their breath in the movie.
Yeah.
You can see how cold it is. But The Evil Dead, ladies and gentlemen, originally titled Book of the Dead for obvious reasons, it spawned a media franchise, beginning with this movie, and then, of course, Evil Dead 2, then Army of Darkness, and, of course, Ash vs. Evil Dead. This isn't just some small, tiny little movie that gets forgotten. This is probably one of the biggest franchise horror movies ever made. Would you agree with me, Jeremy?
Yeah. People love The Evil Dead, and we had a fantastic reboot of sorts in 2013, Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead, which was fantastic. And
absolutely
some
brilliant.
People called it a remake, but honestly, like, I think that film could still live in the same universe as the other films. And the Delta is there, at that cabin. So it's one of those things. It's like, well, you know what? Maybe this is another story that that happened in that universe. So I love it. We're about to get Evil Dead Rise. Do you know, are they still filming that, or did that wrap already?
As far as I know, it's been kept hush, yeah. And I have not really been digging too deep into that because I kind of want to be surprised. The only thing that I know flat out is that Bruce was like, Ash isn't in it.
Yeah.
That's all I've heard.
I'm okay with that. The closure from Ash versus Evil Dead was closure enough for me that I was satisfied with it, is that evil never dies. And in that, Ash's job is never done. I loved the ending of Ash versus Evil Dead. So if we never got Ash again, I'm okay with it, because we wanted an Evil Dead 4.
And he's okay with it. He's okay with it too, though.
He's done. I mean, he's an older dude now. He doesn't want to do all the running around, getting covered in muck and goo and blood and shit like that. He'd rather be the guy that produces it, throws his 2 cents in, and gets a fucking massive paycheck. But he loves it.
But he also, really did it for the fans.
For sure.
For Ash versus Evil Dead, and did a fantastic job. I loved that series so much. I thought it was a brilliant job. I really thought it was a huge love letter to the fans. But
I mean, dude, for over 20 years, fans said, "Where is Evil Dead 4? Where is Evil Dead 4? Where is Evil Dead 4?" So we got Evil Dead 4 in the way of 3 amazing seasons of Ash fighting Deadites, dude. We got way more. Essentially, we got Evil Dead 4, 5, and 6, because that's how much content we got.
But as being in the fan circle and the fan community,
we always want more.
We want more, and there's always going to be those fans. It's not good enough. Yep. Well, what do you want? But not to get off on a tangent or anything like that. I just wanted to show some love to you for giving some love and appreciation for the remake, because I fucking love it. I actually like it.
Fantastic.
It's one of my favorites of the Evil Dead name. So that'll have to come at a later time,
for sure, because
I know they just screened the full uncut 4K version at Beyond Fest this last week.
That's right.
Yeah. So I still want to see it. It's like only 4 or 5 more minutes or whatever, but
I need it.
I digress.
I saw it in theaters 3 times, man. I saw Evil Dead 2013 3 times in theaters, because I could not believe at what they got away with on the big screen. Right? I mean, it was brutal as fuck.
It was an event movie, and I remember the hype. I had never lived through that kind of hype. Remember, thinking back to the marketing for Last House on the Left. It's only a movie. It's only a movie. Or when you'd go into a movie theater in the 80s and there'd be barf bags. Yeah. They would do that to kind of hype the movie. Rightly so with this movie, we're talking about in a minute, with the original The Evil Dead. But the marketing for the remake was so strong that it was it made you so scared that, what am I going to see? The tongue? Oh my God. So it pushed into that, and audiences really leapt for it, and it really worked wonders. I still wanted my sequel to that shit. I love Jane Levy.
Same.
That's my girl.
Same.
That's my girl. But, it is what it is. Everyone involved really wanted to continue that on as the new Evil Dead, and it just didn't happen. But I was going to ask you, this is something we do on this show constantly, because I love going into that nostalgia back in the day. When was the first time, Jeremy, that you saw The Evil Dead? Can you remember that moment?
Yeah, for sure. I was in middle school, and I had walked past the VHS copy of it at my local video store many times. And finally I said, man, 3 words: The Evil Dead. I mean, fuck. I don't want to. With
that sick metal ass logo.
Yeah,
too. It's yes,
dude. I don't want to see any dead, even if they're good. But these motherfuckers are Evil Dead. All right, what is this about? So yeah, I remember renting it and just being absolutely floored by it, and being on the edge of my couch watching it. And it was just so I have an older brother, but he was completely uninterested in horror films, just not interested at all. So typically when I rented these things, it was just me. It's not like my dad was into them either. My dad introduced me to horror films, but it wasn't like he was like, all right, son, let's sit down and watch The Evil Dead. He was like,
oh, son, we're going to have family bonding tonight. Yeah. We're going to sit down. It's Friday night. Your mother's going to bed. We're going to watch The Evil Dead.
Yeah. He'd be like, have a good time. I'm out. So I would go down. I would go down into my basement. Had the whole VHS set up, and And dude, I would watch these horror films by myself, and sometimes that equaled me being scared as fuck, and then being like, oh man, you know, we lived in a 3-level house or whatever, so I'd be like, fuck, I gotta like run up the stairs and get all the way up to my bedroom on the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
Dude, so I mean, I would take off running. Funny story for you. I remember one time I had watched, it was definitely a Nightmare on Elm Street film. I can't remember which one, but I watched it, and then I had to get something out of the laundry room, right? And I was scared as fuck. And so I was like, all right, like, so I turned off the light first for some reason, and then I went to run, like, out of the laundry room because I was like, oh, fuck, like, Freddy could be in the dark in there, you know? And I completely misgauged where the door was, and I ran face first into the wall, and I fucked myself up, dude. I got a fucking black eye. My parents were like, what happened? I was like, I got done watching the movie I rented last night, and I got scared, and I went to run out of the room, and I missed where the door was. So they were like, oh my God.
I can just see it right now. Like 1 foot tall little Jeremy going, I got scared. Right into the wall.
Fucked myself up. But yeah, so I remember watching The Evil Dead in my basement by myself on the edge of my seat, just knowing that I was experiencing something that I had never experienced before, because I had never seen anything so gruesome ever. I mean, all the horror films that I had watched up to that, of course, had grotesque, gory moments, but once this thing kicks in, man, it kicks in hard, and it does not let up until the very end. And even at the very end, it doesn't let up. And I was all about it, man. I remember the next day I popped it in the VHS player, and I had to hit rewind. That was when you had to fucking hit rewind and then just wait patiently to watch it.
Be kind, please rewind.
Oh yeah. Man, there was nothing worse than like, fuck, it felt like it would take forever when you were rewinding a tape.
That's why we had a separate rewinder to the side.
we had that too.
Faster.
Yeah, we had that too.
It was like, zzz, it was like a super rewinder, but I had to ask that because I came to this movie, this franchise per se.
Did you see the first one first?
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
And I think that this is that syndrome that happens with fans with this franchise in particular, where Part 2 is their favorite. And I'm going to come out and be honest about it. Part 2 is my favorite of the series. That's just, personal preference. But it was my band at the time. I was in high school. Like, I think a freshman. And my buddies Chad and Chris. Chad has been in like 3 or 4 bands with me. I love you, brother. I know you don't listen all the time, but if you are listening on this episode, it was you and your brother that one night on a Friday night were like, no, dude, we own these. We're watching all of them. And it was a night of The Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, and Dead Alive. And I was christened, if you will, into the world of pure gore. Because the Italian stuff was not readily available in video stores where I lived in Binghamton. So those came at a later time for me. But when I was christened, I literally had a bloody orgasm and was like,
oh my God.
It was an opening of a door into a completely different world for me. And I remember how much it resonated. And I woke up the next day. I had never seen anything like any of this. And I just wanted to revisit it constantly. So every time we'd go over there, I'd be like, let's watch The Evil Dead again. Can we watch Dead Alive again?
Yeah.
How about Evil Dead 2? Every time we would do like psychedelics like acid or shrooms or... Did I really go there? Did I say that? Oh, okay. I mean,
dude, you're talking about bloody orgasms and shrooms.
When I had like a few Miller Lights or,
spiraling out of
control. Just saying, that was the gateway. So I love those dudes for real, for sure. I don't know how they owned those movies. Because they didn't have like tons of money.
Maybe they just never returned them to the video store, and they were like, "Yo, we're never going back there again."
Full VHS covers. I remember they would pull them out from underneath the cabinet, and they were like smooth and fresh, and you'd feel, oh man, it was that forbidden place you weren't allowed to go. So
That's
that
amazing.
that was that, and I love going back to those moments because that's that special moment that really got you connected and engaged with the movie. But there it is.
I mean,
so moving along from that. But
I remember watching Evil Dead 2 next, of course, and being so confused because I was younger and I just didn't understand. I was like, well, hold up, like they're not even acknowledging what happened in the first one, and now he's going back to the cabin with like different people and pretending like that other shit didn't happen, and like it just confused me, not realizing like, hey, it's pretty much a remake of the first one, but they've got more money and a whole team of people this time. But I just remember it blowing my mind, like, what the fuck?
And of course, I wanted to pick your brain on that before we get any deeper into the movie, because I've heard so many different stories, and I know you are the expert on this subject more than I. Why did they decide to do that?
I think they had a formula that worked, and I think it's a little bit it's like the George Lucas factor. He went back and retweaked his movies, and I think Sam Raimi said, well, had we had the money on the first one, we could have done X, Y, and Z. And for this one, essentially he did a soft remake of his film. It didn't exactly, follow from Evil Dead 1. It was just kind of a remake, but kind of if you suspend belief a little bit, maybe he is going. I don't know, man. It's strange. There is a fan edit out there that it edits Evil Dead 1.
Both of them together.
It
Oh,
edits
God.
Evil Dead.
Of course there is.
It edits Evil Dead 1 into Evil Dead 2, which then goes into Army of Darkness perfectly. All three of them go perfectly. It's interesting. I tried watching it. For me, I'd still prefer the each standalone version, of course.
Well, I mean, if you sit down and you compare tones, right? The first Evil Dead, I think, the humor is not intentional. Some of it is slightly intentional, but it's nowhere near on the level as intentional as Evil Dead 2 and, of course, Army of Darkness and the rest. I think some of the moments that we find humorous from the Evil Dead come out of lack of production value and weak camera work, and which we're going to get to camera work in a moment, and makeup and stuff that, again, apparently the budget, I've heard different factors. One person said 375, one person said 500. The movie ended up making $2.7 million in the US, or inflated worldwide $30 million. Ooh. So it's not like it did nothing.
Yeah. I would be surprised to hear that they spent $500 on it. I'd say there's no fucking way.
I mean, that's what's been said from the cast and crew interviews over the years, just estimated. But apparently, the only person looking at the books was Bruce Campbell himself, because he didn't only star in the movie, he produced the movie. And he also co-directed a lot of shit in the movie as well. And watched the books because it was their production. So they wanted to make sure their first production was on point. But so getting to the movie itself, the film focuses on 5 college students. They're vacationing in an isolated random cabin in a remote wooded area. Sounds like a traditional kind of slasher horror movie at the time this was released, but they find an audio tape. And when they play it, it releases demons, which hadn't been touched for a while in American cinema. We know that, obviously, demons are big deal in Italian cinema. Mm-hmm. They come later, after the Evil Dead. But demonic possession wasn't such a big thing in 1981. It was all just like knives and masks and psychopathic killers. And we have a male protagonist here, which is playing so against type, because at the time, in the 80s, it was all female protagonists. So this movie, it tends to go so many different ways that are not part of the traditional 80s horror trend at the time. And, of course, it creates an onslaught of increasingly gory mayhem. And, oh, man, It's crazy to think, going back and looking at this movie, how original it really is.
Oh man, fiercely original. I could just keep saying over and over again how much I love this movie. I mean, from the first demonic possession of Cheryl, when she pops up in the air in her demonic form, even watching it this evening, I'm like, fuck, that looks so rad and so cool. Even still,
and she's just on wires, and you can't even tell she's on wires.
No, you can't tell at all, and just the way that she's moving, the makeup effects, her whited out eyes, it just the audio dub of her voice. I mean, just everything was so perfect. I mean, even from the opening shot of this film, where the camera's panning from the demon POV with the distant, cackling laughter that's going on in the background, as the camera is flowing through the woods until we get to the famous Delta driving down the road. I mean, just from that camera shot, that POV shot, I, at that point, had never seen anything like that.
Neither have I, and I wanted to ask you, I'm thinking of it, like, in my head as I'm watching this shot. How the fuck did they do that shot? Did they have the camera just, like, up on the back of a pickup truck as they were following the Delta down the trail or whatever? Like, it seemed like I'd never seen that shot ever done before.
The one where it's behind the Delta and it's going down the road?
Behind it,
I think they have the camera rigged up to a vehicle that's behind them, but it's, like, positioned upwards. Because, it definitely made for a unique camera angle for sure. And that's funny that you mentioned that, because that's something that I thought about when I was watching it this evening as well. I'm like, oh, man, like, this is kind of a unique camera shot. And, the shots that they did, the demon POV through the woods, was literally them just running around with the cameras in the woods and messing with the speed.
Handheld.
Yeah. God, man, it immediately lets the audience know, like, you're in for something completely original and unlike anything you've ever seen before.
And what I think is so crazy about it is the film is so detailed, from every little shot, every moment, performance, every bit of dialogue. And it's insane to me that such a novice filmmaker was able to basically help reinvent horror for a new generation. But I think when you look at it and you really dig deep into what the movie is and what kind of filmmaker Sam was, it's called being smart, getting your hands dirty, and just basic hard work. They knew they didn't have the money to make the movie they really wanted to make. This wasn't a studio movie. It was just them getting, a bunch of film students basically handed money. Let's make our movie. And when you watch it, it's so much more impressive than, I'd have to say, like, so much of the input that came out during that era. It's insane to me. That's why it's like what you said a few moments ago, that you rewatching this movie, how much it hit you. It's, for me, I'm rewatching it and going, how were they able to do this with that amount of budget?
Confidence, planning, and willpower, man. I think that's the ultimate way that this movie got made is those things. I mean, they were determined to make this movie and make it their own, and goddamn, they succeeded on, like, every level for sure. What's funny?
Yeah, I mean, Go
no,
ahead.
I was gonna say what's funny is that, talking about, the driving the very famous Delta and everything, is Scotty's driving the car, right? So where typically, I remember the first time I watched this movie that I thought Scotty was going to be the lead character because he was the one driving, right? And then I remember being surprised when I was like, oh shit, like, this guy was the final, survivor. Like, that's really surprising. But something that I noticed tonight that I don't think I really picked up on before was, I think Scotty was drinking some moonshine while he was driving. Like, he had a...
Yeah, he's holding the glass, dude.
He's got a mason jar.
I noticed it, too.
Yeah,
it's a mason jar glass. I'm like, dude is drinking and driving as they're going.
All right, he's, like, drinking moonshine while they're going to... like, first of all, that cabin was the biggest piece of shit ever. Like, who's like, let's go to this fucking cabin in the middle of the woods. Now, I understand that college students, sometimes it's slim pickings where you can hang out and party and fuck and drink alcohol and all that good stuff. But there is no fucking way I'm pulling up to a cabin and the motherfucking like porch swing is going back and forth for no reason. It's not windy, and you know, obviously Scotty's creeped out by it. He gets the keys and he's like, I think it's one of these keys. I'd be like, nah, bro. Like we'll drink in the car. Like in a parking lot of fucking
What I love you saying
Home
about
Depot.
this is when you hear the cast stories, apparently a lot of the locals did give them real moonshine.
No shit.
Which they did drink on the set. But one of the funniest things that I came out of, you know, this viewing thinking is that, so, you know, when they get to the point where they locate the tape recorder and they listen as a group, I'm like, I have to say, back in the day, young people must have been totally satisfied to have fun without TV, music, electronics, etc. Because a millennial would be fucking dead before the demons even hit. Before them even reading the book, they'd be like, I can't live without Instagram. I'm gonna die. It's so true. Literally, thinking about it now, they're not even getting bombed. They're not even getting wasted. I don't see any, like, heavy smoking joints or anything like that.
They had a nice prepared dinner.
Yeah, it's like, how old are you, dude? Are you guys like 35, 40?
Yeah.
You're supposed to be like young kids and shit. I don't know. It's just funny. It's very far from the cliche Friday the 13th slasher type of characters we were so used to during that era. But it is hilarious that you brought that up because I'm like, man, these kids aren't really having that good a time. They're just kind of sitting around like in this dirty ass cabin. Really?
Made a nice,
You're not even fucking
made
yet?
a nice
You're not even
dinner.
fucking
They
yet?
got fucking salad on the table. They got salad bowls on the table. I'm like, holy shit! Like you're having a nice meal in that fucking shithole. Like I'm not eating any food in this nasty motherfucker.
Also, I wouldn't trust any woman that walked up to that house and said, "Sure, we'll go in."
No, none.
They would be like, "We're getting the fuck out of here now."
We saw a motel like 2 towns over. That's exactly where we're going to. We can all chip in $10 and get a fucking motel.
Bro, there's a bar downstairs in the hotel. We're going down there. Drink some more moonshine. Be good. No demons.
We got water beds.
Water
That was a
beds.
fucking big thing back in the day.
No demons. I used to be scared of water beds,
Fuck
actually.
that, dude. My grandparents had one, and so weird.
Did it pop? Did it pop?
No, but it was just always so weird.
Well, one popped and I was a young kid. I was at my aunt and uncle's and one popped and that shit went all over the place.
Jesus.
And it was not fun. It was very scary. I never stayed with them again.
I bet. So this movie, like, it wastes no time. Like, once they get to the cabin, it wastes no time. They have that nice meal. You know, all of a sudden the cellar door kicks up. Well, even before that, Cheryl, you know, she's in her room and all of a sudden it's like her hand gets possessed and she starts drawing the Necronomicon on a piece of paper. So it's letting you know, like, there's some crazy shit that's going on. The cellar door kicks open. They find the recorder and all the crazy shit in the basement. Like, dude, again, this cabin is such a shithole. If all of a sudden we're having this nice fucking salad with croutons and all of a sudden the cellar door kicks open, I'm not going to be like, hey, Justin,
I'm having some fine wine here.
let's go downstairs and investigate.
Like, yo, bro, I'm the fuck out. But no, I mean, we get that. And one of the most iconic scenes of this movie, which we have to jump forward to now because I think it's one of the most discussed scenes ever in horror history. What do you think of the tree rape scene?
Man, it's uncomfortable every time.
Gets it. She gets it, man. Really,
it's
hard.
uncomfortable every time, and it's funny because I was at Horror Hound. I think it was in 2012, 2013-ish, and they had a massive Evil Dead reunion, like to date the biggest Evil Dead reunion that any convention's ever had. I was there. I mean, they had Rick Dormier from Evil Dead 2, who is a host on the QVC network. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I had no idea, but
yeah,
okay,
yeah, the blonde dude, Evil Ed from Evil Dead 2. He's a wildly popular host on the QVC network. So getting him to agree to do a convention is difficult because he's always working, he's always busy. So
he's always selling, overpriced chocolates and fucking
100%. He's very popular doing it. So I was there, and it had cast from all of the films in the franchise, and I remember that they asked Ellen Sandweiss, they said, what was it like with the whole tree scene? And she said that she had no idea exactly what all it was going to entail. That in the script, it literally just read, the woods come to life and they grab Cheryl. And so she said that when they were filming it, it was like, okay, well, this is going to happen now. And this is going to happen now. And she trusted Sam and just kind of rolled with it and was completely fine and comfortable with those decisions. But she said that she was just as surprised when they were filming it. He's like, oh, okay, now, hey, pal, grab that branch right there. And we're going to do a reverse shot right here. We're going to wrap the vine around and we're going to slowly remove it. And she said that she was surprised by it too, but she was completely cool with it. So I thought that was unique. And while we're talking about Cheryl, I don't think they mention in this film, and I was listening for it and during this rewatch, that Cheryl is Ash's sister.
Actually, his sister, yeah.
Like they didn't mention that in this one, right? That was a tie-in they did later, right? Or was it assumed?
Well, no, I think it is assumed. Well, here's the thing. I think when you watch the movie, knowing it, you can see that Raimi is trying to push that there's this different kind of relationship between the two of them. But when you look at it from an outside perspective, Jeremy, I think it doesn't seem like the script had a concrete narrative in terms of overall story. I think it overall just focused on target elements, but somehow miraculously just works and works wonders. Yeah. It's brilliant, but I mean, I think they were just trying to focus on certain things. But yeah, I mean, when you watch it and you can see it because she calls him Ashley. Yeah. She's the only one that calls him Ashley throughout the entire movie.
And she looked at him when shit went south. She was like, "You need to get me out of here."
He looked drive me to town.
He looked annoyed because he didn't understand what exactly was going on at the time, but begrudgingly agreed to try to get her out of that, that setting. So yeah, I think that's interesting that's something that they full on, later on in the franchise said, hey, Cheryl and Ash are brother and sister, but you watch it and it's implied, but it's never spoken in the film. So I wondered if you had any insight on that. And we jumped straight to the tree rape scene, which is probably one of the most iconic moments in the entire franchise.
And most visually impressive. I mean, regardless how you feel about the scene, I think in terms of production and how hard it would have been to do those reverse shots and it looked like that's okay. It looked like it was a nightmare to make. It looked like so much work, and plus it looked very cold out there. So I'm sure it made for some not fun times. But when they go into the cellar, what's on the wall, Justin? What do we see on the wall in the cellar? It's a movie poster. It's a piece of a movie poster. You tell me, my friend.
It's The Hills Have Eyes. Wes Craven's The Hills Have Eyes. There's in the cellar on the wall in the background, there is a segment of a ripped The Hills Have Eyes poster, which is interesting because Wes Craven and Sam Raimi kind of had a back and forth in their films. So the reason I believe that if you watch Nightmare on Elm Street 1984, right?
Yes. I know where you're going with this.
So Nancy Thompson is watching The Evil Dead. Well, that's because Sam Raimi in Evil Dead 1981 did a little homage to Craven by putting the Hills Have Eyes poster in the background. So in 1984, Wes Craven says, hey, I'm going to have my character watching Evil Dead. Well, guess what? We get to Evil Dead Part 2, the sequel, and what do we have? We have a Freddy glove that's hanging up on the wall. So it's just kind of
it's crazy that so many fans didn't even realize that until high def was a thing.
Yeah, that there was a Freddy glove. Yeah.
It's so crazy. I love that back and forth, man. You're gonna make me all sad about Wes.
I know.
You're gonna make me all sad. We still got Sam. Sam's making big movies right now. He's making the new Doctor Strange.
He's in that Marvel money, bro.
They begged him. You know they begged his ass.
As they should. He's the one that started all this Marvel shit with his Spider-Man trilogy, man. He's the one.
It's true. It's true. He was the first one before even Bryan Singer, I mean, pedophile or not, touched X-Men. Yep. It was in production in terms of that. Spider-Man was always his. If you listen to Evil Dead cast discussions or interviews, Sam always wanted to make Spider-Man, like since his youth. So that's so crazy.
I really want to go back and watch some of those. You know, Dick Warlock, Michael Myers from Halloween 2, he did stunts on Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. That's nutty, but so this movie we're talking about, The Evil Dead. I have to ask you in context of now, not when you were younger, but now, do you think it's a scary movie in today's modern terms?
Yeah, I think that there's still tons of scary context in the film and the imagery. Absolutely. If I was watching this movie in the dark, you know, down in my man cave, would I get the creeps? Absolutely. I think it holds up. But that's interesting because, you know, some kids nowadays will watch Halloween and go, it's not scary, to where when Halloween came out, people were terrified of it. So it's kind of interesting how things have progressed and how audiences' perception of what's scary has changed over the years. You know, the new generation might think that Eli Roth's Hostel is terrifying, you know, or, you know, anything that's coming out now. So I don't know. I wonder, but I know for a fact that if any kid, you know, was the same age that we were, was to stumble across this movie not knowing anything about it and watch it, especially by themselves.
Yes.
If they watch it by themselves, they're going to be creeped out, man. 100%.
I only ask because I think in terms of actual content, I think kids today will resonate way more with the gore. The movie has fantastic suspense. I think the atmosphere is its best part about it. Other than the gore.
It's very claustrophobic as well, because you feel like, man, these people can't.
You can't go anywhere. Where are you going to go?
Can't escape.
They conveyed to you immediately the bridge is gone. It looks like fucking King Kong made that bridge a chew toy. You're not going anywhere. You're new to the area. You're stuck in this small, shitty cabin. You have one car. And demons are all around you. So what do you do? And the gore aspect, I think, for younger audiences, gore today, I think, even more so means scary. That shock value. Where a lot of millennials, suspense doesn't do anything for them. So the movie has every element in spades. It does have some good suspense. It does have some jump scares. I mean, obviously, if you know the movie, it's not, you know, a hand coming from the basement up through into the floor is not going to hit you the 15th or 20th time you've seen the movie, or in your case, the 100th time you've seen the movie. But what I'm saying is, if you're a novice, if you've never seen the movie before and you're seeing it in a dark room, I think it will nail audiences. I think this is one of those rare occasions where this, compared to, like, say, a Friday the 13th, or, you know, name another movie from that era of the early 80s, this one will resonate. I think this one will really capture the audience's imagination today.
Wildly inventive and still very, very effective. There is a line of dialogue in this movie that makes me cringe every single time I watch it. Do you know what I'm... Okay, I thought maybe you knew what I was going to say.
No,
okay.
I have no idea. I can't. Believe me, I don't even know where you're going.
So, much like in John Carpenter's Halloween, when the Bob character says, and then we're going to rip Lindsay's clothes off, and I'm like, well, that's fucking weird. Why would you say that? There's a moment like...
You?
Yeah, like, all right, pedophile. There's a moment like that in this movie where Scotty is joking around, and he looks at one of the female characters, and he goes, I'm going to break your face. But, like, says it, like, jokingly, but it's so out of place.
Well, I mean, he's like the douchiest character in the entire movie.
I get it, but every single time I watch it, it jumps out at me, and I'm like, ugh, God, I hate that line of dialogue. It's just so it's out of nowhere.
Well, I think that leads to the point where you're like, when it gets to the scene where he tells Ash, "She's your girlfriend. You take care of her. I don't care about her. I'm getting out of here right now." Like, you're like, oh, okay. So you're a giant piece of shit, and I can't wait to see you get killed. Unfortunately, his first attack on screen is off screen. So all of the female characters, you're seeing like them transform their attack on screen. And he goes out the door and comes back in. And he's all magically, he's already fucked up. I mean, of course, we see him get fucked up again later, but it'd be more satisfying to the audience. Again, Sam, we get it. You made a miracle when you made this movie, but that would have been that moment to do it. And what I love, though, and we have to get down before we finish this retrospective, I mean, the most important thing about this film, aside from the atmosphere, the set, the setting, it's Bruce Campbell. It's Ash. I mean, because what they created here with this character, he is just a very relaxed, normal guy. You know what I mean? There's nothing about this guy that leads you to believe that, like, he's ready and set to destroy demons or deadites. You know what I mean? He's not that dude. He just wants to go there and have, like, a romantic weekend with his girl. He's got a beautiful necklace planned for her. And then he just gets shoved into the situation.
I'm glad that you mentioned the whole necklace scene. I love this movie. I've said it a bunch already, but the one scene that I can absolutely do without is the necklace scene where it keeps going back and forth with the close-up shots of their eyes. And you've got, like, dude, front and center, you've got Bruce Campbell's fucking unibrow. Like, his fucking unibrow is, like, all up in the screen.
They didn't know back then they had unibrows.
I know.
They didn't have real mirrors, Jeremy.
But, dude, all of a sudden it's like, it's a close-up shot of Linda, and then it goes to Ash and Linda and Ash.
Well, you know what that scene's supposed to do, right? It's supposed to convey suspense, making you think that she's about to rip his fucking throat out.
Yeah, I know. I get it. I get it. And then the way she goes, I'm like, I expect her to be like, waka waka, like right afterward.
And then, he says something like, steal from a blind man or something like that. But it's like, I know what you're saying. See, I loved that scene.
Yeah.
So I differ in that because it shows that amateur filmmakers were able to really present great close-up shots. I mean, they're not easy to do well back in that period. And I thought that it was good.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
and not
on a technical level, but I guess what you're meaning is like on a thematic level, it doesn't work
I'm
for
good.
you.
I'm good with that.
It was trying to be playful.
And nothing says let's get a romantic weekend started like turtleneck. I mean, that's one thing that that's one fashion trend that I'm glad has moved away.
Hold on now. Are
you about to go get a turtleneck on?
I got about 3 in the
closet. Do you really?
Are you Danielle? Are you my wife?
Dude.
Because she has threatened to burn my turtlenecks for the past 10 fucking years.
What person gets a throat tattoo and then also has turtlenecks?
Some motherfucker that wants to get a J-O-B job. That's how I got my last 3 jobs,
You wore
actually.
a turtleneck?
Of course. How else am I going to hide this shit? Are you serious?
Oh my good dude, I'm just imagining
Justin,
you showing up to a job interview with a turtleneck on.
It's 2 weeks later, and they're like, "Listen, Justin, we could tell you already had the tattoo, and we didn't care. We hired you because your skills." But I was like, "But we don't care." Yes, Jeremy.
What if in turn they're like, "Nah, bro, if you come to work, you have to wear the turtleneck." What if you had to be the turtleneck guy at the work?
Motherfucker. Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne wears a turtleneck in Batman 89 at the end of the movie. I'll wear that same turtleneck. I have the replica in my closet. I'll wear it the rest of my life.
You know what? That's fair. That's fair. I'll accept that. That Bruce, if it's good enough for Bruce Wayne, it's good enough for me.
But no, I think you and Danielle need to have like a team meeting or what do you call those groups where you meet and you discuss your hatred of turtlenecks? Is that a thing?
It is now. Yeah.
Now I'll tell her, and you guys can create your hatred for turtleneck group. Yeah, for sure.
Starting the Facebook group.
But yeah, that's so. As we end out this discussion, our retrospective of the Evil Dead, I think that we have to discuss the special effects by Tom Sullivan because of the fact that he did everything himself.
Yes, and he still owns everything. He shows up every year to Cinema Wasteland convention, and he does an Evil Dead exhibit. So when I went to the big Evil Dead reunion, he was there, and he brought all of the props with him. They're all in glass display cases. It's amazing. I mean, some of the stuff you can tell me, dude, it's latex. Over time it starts to break down. But I mean, dude, he had the Kandarian dagger. I mean, dude, pages from the Necronomicon. I mean, everything, dude. It's so cool. And I mean, dude, he did all of this stuff. It was all him. And really,
he did every single bit of it. Yeah,
really impressive stop motion animation as well. I mean, the amount of ambitiousness that went into making this movie, because they could have easily just thrown some blood and duct tape and foam together, and they clearly had a distinct vision where they said, no, we want melting, rotting flesh. We want, right where the pencil had gone into the ankle, we want this stop motion where you can...
Still!
Yes.
Oh, man, still, to this day, one of those shots I still cringe and get fucking chills
It's so good.
I got him tonight. Danielle got up from the couch and walked away while we were watching it, because that scene still nails it.
So it makes you cringe, like absolutely cringe every single... It looks so real. But Tom Sullivan, man, he went above and beyond on this movie and really, really put his creative stamp on it, which is, I don't know the story for why he didn't, I know he worked a little bit on Army of Darkness.
2 and... I thought he worked on 2 and Army of Darkness.
Maybe he worked on 2. I know for sure Army of Darkness. But it's surprising.
But I know Nicotero took hold on 2, right?
K and B took hold on 2. I mean, if he did work on it, it was maybe on a lesser level. But I'm surprised that they didn't utilize him more for the sequels or even the TV series, because he had such a distinct look to what he did. I mean,
yeah, we had never seen anything like that up until that point. And then I think if you look at, say, something like Demons kind of took that look, that like we have like fucking Frosted Flakes pasted onto our faces look, to another degree. But we hadn't seen that up until that point, until the Evil Dead. We'd only had Savini zombies. And, I mean, let's be fair. The Deadites, the demons in this movie, quote unquote, look more like zombies than we would think of, as regular demons. But it works so well with those hard contacts. And the way the imagery is so unapologetic and so iconic, you can't even touch it. So this is the movie, I think, that really paved the way for that visual. We wouldn't have Dead Alive. We wouldn't have so many other movies that followed if not for this movie.
Yeah, so he did, he was uncredited for being an illustrator and props uncredited for an Evil Dead 2. So what level he was involved, who knows? It could have potentially just been, a little bit of artwork. I don't know. But, I mean, his stamp on this movie is just iconic. And I love that he attends the Cinema Wasteland convention every single year. And, he shows up and he's there for the fans. I think it's absolutely incredible. And he was so incredibly nice when I met him. And recently I watched Hail to the Deadites, which is a documentary about the fandom behind the Evil Dead, the fans, and he was such a huge component of this documentary. So much so that in the documentary, I don't want to give away too much, but let's just say that someone potentially proposes to someone in his presence just to be close to the Evil Dead props that he created. So I think that you can't have an Evil Dead discussion without discussing Tom Sullivan. I mean, absolute pioneer and genius. Boom.
Couldn't agree more with you. So, Jeremy, we haven't done this in a while. It's been a long time since we've done this segment. Do you want to do some trash it or treasure it?
Dude, treasure.
Yeah.
Treasure Island.
All right, so here we go. So, Jeremy, this is that segment we do on these retrospectives where we have to get into the nitty-gritty. And do we trash this movie or do we treasure it? So I will throw it to you, of course, first. I think I know your answer.
Dude, masterpiece. This movie is a masterpiece. It deserves to be in a museum. As Indiana Jones once said, treasure all the way, bro. Treasure, Muppets, Treasure Island, treasure.
It's The Birth of the Chin. I mean, the movie that made Bruce Campbell a cult horror star. It's the movie that made Sam Raimi's Snap Zoom. Again, it's not his Snap Zoom. It's been utilized throughout cinema prior to that. But it's the movie that really made that look in terms of the zoom. Those super, ultra crazy close-ups in horror films. Really a thing. It's a shame more filmmakers really didn't do that after that. But, you know, I gotta treasure this movie as well. It's one of those that it's undeniable. It's enjoyable, even if you're passively watching it, or if you're sitting there and it's like a Friday night and you're like, I just want to sit there and analyze The Evil Dead. I just need to sit there and look at the passion, the level of effort, getting your hands dirty, that old style of filmmaking, which really isn't relevant today. I mean, today, kids, Jeremy, can go out and make movies with their iPhones. Like 3 or 4 kids can go out in one night and make a movie.
And then
that wasn't possible.
They'll have After Effects on their computer and they'll add in digital effects afterwards. And this movie, you know, this was done
a labor of love.
As a labor of love, absolutely. Like I said, stop motion animation, shots done in reverse.
When they're melting at the end, oh my god!
Sound design in this movie, holy fucking shit! The sound design in this movie is terrifying, grotesque, all of that. It's perfect.
Every shutter that slams. I mean, the camera work is definitely, you know, something that I would have loved to have done a full essay on, but it's something you had never seen before. And when I rewatch this movie, I see the influence that it spread after the fact, but I see nothing before it or after that really, really touches that camera work. And that's all Sam Raimi. Yeah. That's really all his vision. So, yes, treasure it. Did you really expect that we were going to trash this
Speaking movie? of treasure it, I have to tell you a memory of mine that I'm going to treasure forever is in 2000 and I think it was 2019 maybe? 18? I don't know. Fucking time goes now. Who knows?
And he's sober. He's the sober one. I'm the one drinking my Spuds McKenzie glass full of spirits,
full of old puke and spirits. So, dude, I attended Texas Frightmare Convention, and it was a Sam Raimi first time convention appearance ever.
Fucker, you
motherfucker. People said it was never going to happen. Sam Raimi will never do it. What's funny is that Sam Raimi told my best friend Devin, literally to his face, I'm never going to do one of those. I'm not interested. I'm not into it. Said, never going to do it, right? So I guess when Devin got him one time, it was right down the street from Monsterpalooza while Monsterpalooza was happening. And he was filming a movie in L.A., and Devin said, hey, man, you know, Monsterpalooza's happening right down the street. Like, you know, your fans would love to meet you. And he goes, pal, I just don't know. I'm never going to do one of those things. So, you know, I'll sign if my fans ever show up. I'll sign whatever you got. I'll take a picture with you, no problem. But I don't want to do one of those things. So people said it wasn't going to happen. Sam Raimi said it wasn't going to happen. It fucking happened. And I have family in Texas, so my ass got on an airplane, and I went there, and it was one of the most surreal things. I think I was within the first 10 people to meet him on his first day at the convention ever. And so I'm looking at Sam Raimi, and right to the right of Sam Raimi is Bruce Campbell signing autographs at the table right next to him. And it was just
wow. That had to be like so
it
surreal.
Was fucking unreal, dude. Like we could do a whole podcast on me meeting Sam Raimi because like it almost didn't happen.
Patreon special.
Dude, I'm down. Let's do it. It almost didn't happen. I did not have a VIP. VIP tickets sold out before they even announced Sam Raimi because Texas Frightmare has a built-in audience that automatically will buy a VIP without knowing who anyone is that's going to be a guest there. So I essentially had to do some really cunning shit and cut a bunch of people and do a bunch of wild shit in order to make it happen because he was only meeting X amount of people a day. And I was like, fuck, if I'm not going to meet him. So anyway, so I did some cunning shit. I made it happen. But being in that line and watching Sam Raimi signing autographs for fans and then looking over and there's Bruce Campbell, I was like, dude, what a surreal moment this is. And I was really thankful to have that experience and to be able to meet Sam. And thankfully, I had already had Bruce sign all my shit years prior, so I didn't have to get in that line.
And also, luckily, your picture turned out great.
Dude, I got
Sam.
an awesome picture with him.
It's an amazing photo.
I'm holding up the Necronomicon and my picture with him. It was just an all-around great experience. And they had a Battle Delta from the Ash vs. Evil Dead show was there, too. I got my picture in front of it. It was just such a and just a regular Delta was there inside the convention. It was just a really memorable weekend. And as such a huge Evil Dead fan, it was a moment that I'm gonna treasure forever. So I figured before we wrapped up, I'd had to tell that story.
No, of course, and of course, and I love hearing your stories, and of course, you have to rub my nose in it for sure. There's a big pile of dog shit there. I mean, I met Bruce, and it was amazing, but I did have a photo op purchase for Sam, and it was right before COVID, and of course, COVID killed it. So I was supposed to meet Sam Raimi at Monster Mania, New Jersey.
Oh, that's right. He was announced.
Yeah. I had my ticket purchased. It was done. It was a done deal. And that was going to be it for me. And I was so excited in that, of course, because not just the Evil Dead movies, but the Spider-Man movies and Darkman. I mean, there's so much that Sam has done that I love so much. And it was, I knew it was probably coming, because we had purchased the tickets before COVID started to become like really crazy. But I was so sad. And then I was like, yeah, that was an opportunity that will probably never happen.
Then
again.
Immediately, like when things started to resume, with Hollywood productions, all of a sudden he was thrust into like, okay, he's directing Doctor Strange. So
the new Doctor Strange sequel. Yeah. And it makes sense that he's doing that. And good for him, man. It's really great to see a filmmaker of his caliber and with his creativity. I just hope he knocks it out of the fucking park, and I hope we see more Sam Raimi movies. Sorry, Sam. Oz the Great and Powerful? Nah, that can't be your last movie. It can't be. It won't be. We're rooting for you. And that's the end of this Brain Stew episode. Like we said earlier on, if you want a Halloween Kills poster, you know where to go. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, and we will add you into the mix in the contest to win one. But that's it for this week. Jeremy, next week, it's all pumpkins and knives.
Dude,
Michael Myers,
I'm excited.
We are doing a promotional screening, advanced screening for the movie. As of this recording, we already have it booked, but I can't say it on this episode because the tickets will probably already be gone by the time this shit airs. So hopefully you got one. If you're listening to this show, that means you care about what we do and also care about the goodies we give out. So that's what it's all about. Michael Myers, baby. Horror. But it was an absolute pleasure, Jeremy, talking about this movie tonight. I'm sorry you didn't get to go see those locations, though, this week.
It's coming, man. It's coming. Like I said, maybe November. We'll see.
But we love you. We love you. Jeremy, if our listeners are into your shit, your autographs, your adventures and stuff, where can they find you on social media?
I'm on Instagrams. JT.
Are you sure? Instagram didn't delete you or Facebook didn't remove
Nah,
you? We had that collapse this
collapse
week,
of 6 hours of no Facebook or Instagram. Yeah, so I'm on it.
People were dying. People were like,
dude, we like went back to like the little house on the prairie times, man. Where it was like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna go plow the fields.
You and me, we're like Facebook guys, but we're also like MySpace guys. So we're like, oh yeah, we remember when there wasn't anything else but that.
Yeah, and I remember before there was anything. There was no internet anything, man. Fucking dial-up, bro.
Give me my AOL Instant Messenger. Hey, baby.
Oh, man. So, yeah, I'm on Instagram. It's JT_pumpkin_guts. GUTZ. So, yeah, like me, follow me on the Instagrams.
Yeah, and we're at Epic Film Guys. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we're all over the place, but we can't say enough how much we love you. Seriously, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, our 40th anniversary retrospective on Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead. I'm Justin.
Jeremy. And as always, keep it creepy.
Brightstone!